Welcome to today's video where we're going to dive straight into the topic of how do you choose the right transition plan when you're starting the carnivore diet. Whether you're somebody who is hearing about carnivore for the very first time or you're at the stage where you're ready to take the plunge, choosing the right transition plan without overwhelming your body is so important, and it's going to make a big difference on how carnivore works. So basically what you want to do is transition from whatever you're eating now to the carnivore diet, which is a meat-based diet, and you want to do that in such a way that you don't overwhelm your body or send it into shock mode. The first question to ask is, what diet are you transitioning from? That's an important question because what we've been eating right up to when we start carnivore makes a big difference on what sort of transition plan we need. If you're somebody who has been eating a relatively healthy diet, you've been eating whole foods, you've been avoiding sugar, you've been on a low carb or a keto diet, then you're going to find the transition to carnivore relatively easy and smooth. However, you might be starting from a place where you know that your diet has just been downright wrong, and carnivore for you is going to be a radical change because you've been eating that standard Australian diet or the standard American diet, or whatever you name you call it, but you've been eating a lot of sugar, processed foods, seed oils, all of the crap that you now know that you've got to get rid of in order to live more healthy. You see, if you're starting from there, then it's more important that you look at some sort of a transition plan in order to start the carnivore diet successfully. Basically, when you start carnivore, you've got two options on a transition plan. So I want to keep it as simple as I can. You've got one option to do it gradually, and the other option is to go cold turkey. Let me first talk about transitioning gradually. You see, what you're going to do in starting carnivore is that you're going to suddenly stop the sugar, suddenly stop the processed food, suddenly stop all the junk and the garbage that you've been eating, and you're going to start eating a proper human diet, as Dr. Ken Berry calls it. I like that term. But to do so is going to put a severe shock on your body. So therefore, it's often wise to look at a gradual transition to carnivore. If you want to adopt a transition plan, I would suggest that you do so over, say, 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how you read your body's reaction to what's happening and at what pace you can cope with the change. But basically, there would be 3 steps in that transition plan. The first step would be to gradually increase your fatty meat intake. Now, again, this would depend on how much meat you're already eating, but you want to choose those meats, particularly the red ruminant meats, beef and lamb, particularly here in Australia anyway. You want to choose those cuts and choose really fatty cuts of meat. Gradually increase that sort of meat in your diet. For breakfast, if you're somebody who's been having a lot of grains and cereals, breads, oats, that sort of thing, then you might want to cut that breakfast out and start transitioning to a meat-based breakfast. You could have egg and bacon or egg and a lamb rump steak or something like that, so that you're making this transition, bringing in the meat slowly step by step. So you bring in the meat. That would be phase 1. You could maybe do that for a week and see how you go. The second stage of this transition plan would be to start cutting out the sugar, the processed food, those things that are very obviously in conflict with a carnivore diet. Now, be aware that if you've had a lot of sugar over a long time, then sugar becomes an addiction. And this is another reason why it would be good to have that plan, because when you suddenly cut out the sugar, there's going to be a withdrawal process. So what we're saying is, first, gradually increase red meat. Secondly, withdraw the sugar, the processed foods, the grains, the cereals from your diet. And the third stage, again, could be another 1 or 2 weeks, would be to remove the fruit and vegetable element from your diet. Once you've done that, you're pretty much full on carnivore. Whether or not you continue to include some dairy is up to you, and you can work out what is best for you as you transition. Some people cut out dairy right at the very start, and other people gradually phase it out. But you've got to work out a plan that suits you. Every step, you've got to listen to your body and discern how you're feeling and how your body is coping with the change. Because what you're going to be doing in this stage is your body's going to transition from burning sugar for fuel and start burning fat for fuel. It would be like changing the fuel source for your car. It's quite a complex operation, and you're going to change the fuel over to fat and no longer be using sugar for fuel. You see, as soon as you do that, they call it an adaptation stage or entering into ketosis. That's when the fat begins to melt away because you're actually using your own body fat to fuel your body. So that's basically the first option of transitioning, drawing up some sort of transition plan that is in 3 steps, adding more meat, removing sugar and processed food and grains, and then removing fruit and vegetables from your diet. So space those 3 steps out over however many weeks you need to feel comfortable adapting to the carnivore diet. Now, the other option is not for the faint-hearted, but it is to go cold turkey. In other words, to say, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it overnight, and I'm just going to dive in head first. Now, it depends, I guess, largely on your personality. I dived straight in and went head first and cold turkey into the carnivore diet. And it's an interesting experience going that way, but your own personality certainly comes into it. This method can certainly be more intense, but some people find that intensity and jumping straight in gives them a higher level of momentum to get into the carnivore diet. And they just get into some sort of rhythm a lot faster. Now, if you're going that route, then you have to know that you've got to be prepared for some of the challenges that you are going to face, particularly in the first 2 to 3 weeks. Now, the challenges will be different for every person, but there are some common threads common to many people's experience, and certainly I can relate to some of these. But you may experience things like the keto flu, they sometimes call it. This is where you have very low energy. I know when I started, I thought, goodness, carnivore was meant to give me more energy, and now I can hardly get off the couch. And I wondered what was wrong. But you can have that sapping of your energy. On top of this, you can have just a general feeling of irritability. Just when you're just generally not feeling good, you're a bit down, you're a bit moody, you're a bit more intense than normal because of all these changes that are happening in your body overnight. And so it's to be expected. Some people might experience headaches. Don't forget what I said a moment ago about sugar being a drug, and you have just cut yourself off from a drug that you have been on for years. And sugar is addictive. This is why Big Food puts it in every product they make, because they know that it's addictive and people will keep buying their product. But we've got to break this addiction in our life every bit as much as you would have to break a cocaine addiction or an alcohol addiction or a cigarette addiction in your life. Sugar is an addiction. So you might experience headaches and withdrawal symptoms from sugar or even carbs. Some people are addicted to carbs and will get withdrawal symptoms from carbohydrates. The other complication you may well experience is digestive issues, where some people get diarrhea in this stage and other people go the opposite way and get constipation. That was certainly my experience. I had the most unpleasant and difficult constipation in the first couple of weeks when I started carnivore. And then, of course, there's the cravings. Again, it can be related to the things that you're addicted to, but you'll get cravings for all sorts of different foods. Again, this is to be expected. All of these things are going to come at you at the start of carnivore. They're all going to come at once, and this is what rocks many people. They think it's all too hard, it's not working. They go through all of these symptoms, and then to add insult to injury, they get on the bathroom scales and they say, I haven't lost any weight. I must be doing something wrong. You've done nothing wrong. You are transitioning your body to a whole new way of eating. Now, there are some things that can help if you go this road. First of all, stay hydrated. Your body's going to need a lot more hydration during this stage, so make sure you're drinking plenty of water. It can also help to add electrolytes. Electrolytes are sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And they're three things that your body's going to need in this transition stage. Just if you're going to find an electrolyte, find one that doesn't have sugar in it. So if you go down to the local pharmacy and you look at what's on the shelf, many of those products, if you look at the ingredients, have sugar in. So make sure you're finding one that has no sugar. The one I use is called LMNT. It's available here in Australia and it's also available in the United States of America. Electrolytes are going to help you with things like cravings, with energy level and body cramps. I haven't mentioned those, but some people struggle with cramps at this stage and the electrolytes can help with that. Also, another key at this stage is to make sure that you're eating enough. Oftentimes when people start eating meat, they automatically just start cutting down their portion size, or they're used to a meal where they only had, where meat was only just one part of the meal and now it's the whole meal, and that's a mindset to change, that you've got to fill your plate with meat. And if you're not getting enough meat, then that means that you're going to be hungry. That means you're going to have cravings. That means your body's not getting enough nutrients and energy for what it needs. So make sure that you're getting enough to eat. If you're suffering those digestion problems that I mentioned, if it's diarrhea, it could be a sign that you're either dehydrated or that you are having too much fat all of a sudden. And you could possibly cut down the fat a little bit and then increase the amount of water you're drinking and pay close attention to your body. You see, whatever you do, you've got to listen to your body because your body will tell you what it needs and what it doesn't need. And on carnivore, you're going to get a lot better at listening to your body. If you're constipated, then the solution might be that you need more fat and you've got to increase the fat element in your diet. But again, both with diarrhea and with constipation, an important key is that you've got to keep drinking. You've got to keep yourself hydrated, because if you're not hydrated, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. Another thing that people find helpful at this stage is bone broth. You can make your own. It's quite simple to make, and there's many recipes on YouTube and other places for bone broth. Or you can buy some ready-made ones. But if you're buying the ready-made ones, again, read the ingredients very carefully. But bone broth can keep you hydrated. It can provide added nutrients. It can just give you that lift that you need. So consider adding in some bone broths if you're struggling with any of these issues. In all of this process, I think one of the most important things you can do is to have some sort of community support. You see, it's so much tougher when you do carnivore alone. Now, some people have very little option because they're the only person around. Some people are trying to go carnivore and all of their family are eating a different diet and putting pressure on them, telling them they're crazy, they're doing the wrong thing. And all of those pressures can be very real. So it's really going to be helpful, whatever your situation, to have some sort of community support. Ideally, you want to find some face-to-face contacts with carnivore people. Look for and find other carnivores. Get together. Put a notice on your local community Facebook group looking for carnivores. You'll get some hate comments, just ignore those, but you might just find some people in your community who you can start meeting up with just to meet together and share stories and encourage one another. But look, whatever you do, certainly we've got a great carnivore community online associated with this channel, and I would invite you to join our Facebook group. It's a great group. It's a very supportive group. It's a very safe place to share your journey. No question is too dumb. Nobody is judging you. Nobody will give you any advice unless you ask for it. So consider joining our Facebook community and use the support and the wisdom of others around you. I will put a link down in the description just to a little worksheet outlining both the cold turkey approach and the gradual transition approach, just to give you a few pointers, help you remember some of the things I've said here. And you can download that clicking the link below. It's just a one-page PDF to help you remember the processes. It's just a one-page PDF to help you remember what we've talked about here today. So if you're somebody listening to this, if you're just that little bit further down the track, leave a comment below on this video and tell us how you got on, particularly your first 2 weeks. What was it like? Did you use a transition plan, or did you go in cold turkey like I did? We're very interested. We can learn from each other, so please comment down below. If you're getting any value out of these videos, I would love it if you would click like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. If you missed my first ever video on this channel, where I simply told my own story of how I came to embrace carnivore and how I got on in those very early days, I will leave a link to it above. So in the meantime, I want to say thank you for watching. We are here for you. We are here to support you in this journey. We want to see as many people as possible succeed and totally transform their lives on this diet. So thank you for being here. I will see you on the next video. And until then, keep telling your story.